Path of Exile 2 is already being labelled as the Diablo killer, and it's not even out yet. The early reviews it's been getting are nothing short of overwhelmingly positive, and I, for one, as a long-time ARPG fan, am insanely excited for its release into early access. However, for anyone still apprehensive who may have a few burning questions before shilling out for a game that's supposed to be free, I've got you covered. Welcome to Dom's Roundtable, I am Dom, and today I'm going to be taking you through the top 10 most important things that you're probably asking yourself about Path of Exile 2 before you take the leap and purchase your way into early access and start playing. The most burning question you probably have is something along the lines of, isn't Path of Exile supposed to be free? Why are they making us pay to play a free game? And I've heard there are microtransactions too. Is this pay to win? This really is just starting to sound like a money grab in disguise. And let me address these questions in order. Firstly, yes, Path of Exile 2 is free. However, the team has been growing. It's a massive, ambitious game, so they need to make money and pay their wages and put food on the table somehow. So for the privilege of playing the game roughly 6 months before anyone else, yes, there is a small mandatory donation. This can be as little as £20 for the base supporter pack of the game, going up to $480 if you want absolutely all of the additional goodies. However, if you have already spent $480 throughout the life of Path of Exile 1, then you will get this for free. And you may think, holy shit, $480 is a lot of money. But for a game like this, where you could easily put thousands of hours into it, it's been out 11 years. That's only around 40 quid a year, which is the price of half a AAA title. So personally, I think that's really reasonable. So that answers the why it's not free. Next up, microtransactions. Yes, this game has always featured microtransactions. However, 99% of them are cosmetic. There is absolutely no pay-to-win mechanics in this game. The only thing that isn't a cosmetic that you can buy, that arguably does make the game a bit easier, is additional tabs for your stash so you can hold more stuff. This isn't going to make you any better than anyone else. It's not paying to win, it's just paying for convenience. And when the game is entirely free, chucking a couple of dollars at them once a year, I personally think is completely reasonable. So all of your monetary concerns, there is absolutely no need to worry. They're just funding their wages, they're just funding the development of the game, and they are doing so, in my opinion, in a very unpredatory manner, which is very rare these days and just absolutely fantastic. Before we get into the next part, I'd like to thank the sponsor for today's video, Wondershare Filmora. Video editing can be a daunting task, but unlike other video editing software like CapCut, Filmora has all the features you could need, including 21 AI features. This is a powerful and user-friendly editing tool that allows for seamless video creation, and Filmora has all the features you could need. To list just some of its great features, Filmora even has a built-in recording system, allowing you to record high-definition images and videos on the go without interrupting your gameplay. Split screen is one that we utilize on this channel all the time, as it allows quick and easy comparison of two separate videos in real time at the click of a button. Another feature is speed ramping, where you can slow down and speed up your footage to emphasize incredible moments throughout your gameplay. It also has powerful built-in AI tools, such as the ability to enhance the visual and audio moments within your videos, with over 500 stickers and 10,000 sound effects to choose from to elevate your footage. This is genuinely just the tip of the iceberg of what Filmora can offer you. So if this all sounds good to you, you can download it and try it out right now using my link below in the description and the pinned comment. The next important question you're probably asking yourself is how many classes are in the game? What's the variety like in the gameplay? Well, to answer that second part, the variety is almost limitless, and I'll cover that in more depth during the skill tree section of this video. Firstly though, as far as the exact amount of classes in the game, there is 6 to begin with in early access, a total of 18 if you include their ascendancies, which are basically extra specializations that you unlock after completing their ascension trials in Act 2. This is set to more than double upon the full release of the game, with the addition of 6 new classes, and all classes being granted an additional Ascension option, for a total of 48 options. In no particular order, the 6 classes available in early access, along with a little bit about them, are firstly the Mercenary, who can utilize multiple crossbows and ammo types to deal with any situation from range. They can destroy enemy shields or armor with rapid fire, block paths with walls of ice, and shotgun bosses to burst them down. We also have the Monk, described as a complex class that combines dexterity and intelligence to move around the battlefield with a mix of flowing physical attacks and elemental spells. Next is the Ranger, who is a bow specialist that uses its agility along with abilities to crowd control targets or clear hordes and damage bosses. There is also the Sorceress, an intelligence-based class that focuses on elemental magic, able to instantly kill enemy hordes or burst down bosses with devastating abilities. We also have the Warrior, whose efficiency shines in big, heavy hits and massive damage, making it a great pick for those who want to fulfill the traditional warrior archetype and be up close and personal in the combat. And finally, the one I'm most excited for due to the hordes of minions that you can summon, the Witch specializes in occult magic and necromancy, allowing you to build your own personal army using bone spells and spread debuffs and plagues to attack your enemies from range. As for the 6 remaining classes releasing down the line with the full release, you've also got the Druid, Duelist, Huntress, Marauder, Shadow, and Templar. And as I say, they will all have 3 Ascension classes as well upon full release, which I will talk about in a future video as I talk about build guides and progression when the game actually releases. As promised, the next thing we're going to talk about is the skill tree. What is it? How does it work? Because it seems confusing at first, especially if you have no experience with Path of Exile, so I'm here to shed some light on it and help it seem less daunting. The first thing I'll say, in the developer's own words, is it is absolutely huge. With over 1,500 different nodes on there, it can seem quite daunting at first. But do try not to be intimidated, as even though there are loads and loads of options, it's pretty simple to understand the basics and then build on this knowledge. Basically, each level you get for your character will also grant you 1 point to put into the passive skill tree, and each class starts in a different location on the tree, but they all share this same one big tree. So really you only need to focus on 1/12 of it at first, because with your own specific starting location, it is very safe for you to grab basically every skill within your little node, because they're all going to benefit your class in one way or another. The tree is divided into clusters with different themes, and each node within these clusters is classed as either a small or a notable, with the smalls granting obvious passives like increased damage or crit strike, with the real build changing powerful nodes being the notables. And notables are usually tied to specific abilities, and they give your actions some very powerful secondary effects, such as maybe a chance for certain abilities to trigger twice, or refund ammo spent, or even chain to multiple enemies, turning single target abilities into devastating AoE effects. The options for your build in regards to notables are endless, and it is so fun exploring the various different builds available to you, even very early on in the game. And all of this talk about different options and builds available to you on the skill tree, of course, lead us into another very important question. And that question is, with so many choices available to me, can I respec? How important is the leveling decisions? How locked into my build am I? And if I can respec, how easy and how cheap is it? Firstly, good news, you can respec, and it's actually far more viable and feasible than it was in Path of Exile 1. It's very easy to do and costs only a small amount of gold per point. However, another even better feature is the fact that alongside being able to have multiple weapon sets that you can switch on the fly, the same applies with your passive skill tree. So your weapon sets actually tie in with the passive skill tree system, and when you switch to another weapon set, it will automatically, if you wish, switch you to a second passive skill set so that you can tailor your different passive skills to your different weapons to complement their attacks and their elemental bonuses. The next big question, does Path of Exile 2 have multiplayer? If so, to what extent? Is there PvP? Is there dungeons? Is there couch co-op? Is there raids? How does it all work? And the answer to basically all of the above is yes. Firstly, let me address PvP. Path of Exile 2 will offer various PvP game modes, much like the first game. However, it'll hopefully be much more fleshed out and balanced than the first one. Because if you have played much of PoE 1, you'll know PvP was definitely more of an afterthought and not something that you could really get into and engage with unless you were already the best of the best. And it was basically just who could annihilate the other person first, and it was all quite stressful and very niche and attracted only a really small community. Hopefully it's going to be done a lot better this time around. But with that aside, the biggest draw here with multiplayer content is the PvE content. Path of Exile 2 will feature couch co-op functionality for both console and PC players, along with the functionality for up to 6 players per group. Honestly, I think the multiplayer PvE content in this game is going to absolutely pop off, and I cannot wait. So if you'd like to play together sometime, make sure you join my Discord server, link in the description below, and we can talk more about PoE 2. The next question you may be asking yourself is, what is the maximum level? How does leveling work in this game? Well, the maximum level in the game is 100, but please don't try and focus on that too much. Unlike, say, an MMO or many other RPGs with traditional leveling systems, you're not just trying to race to the maximum level before you can then engage with the endgame content. That's not the point at which the endgame starts. Leveling is actually part of the game and will continue for many hours into the endgame. It's definitely not something to be treated as a goal, like I'll hit level 100, then I'll start playing the game. It's more something to enjoy as you continue your journey throughout the game and start to complete endgame content. To give you specifics of how quickly you will level up, for the early access period of Path of Exile 2, you are likely to reach around level 45 by the time you complete Act 3. At this point, when the game has actually been fully released, you'll then go into Act 4, and you'll continue progressing through the campaign, leveling your character up and gearing your character up until you hit around level 65. This is when you'll finish Act 6 and go into the end game. However, as only 3 acts exist in early access, when you finish Act 3, you will start the game again, basically on hard mode, and you'll complete the campaign once more, allowing you to reach a high enough level and build your character to be powerful enough to start facing the endgame content at around level 65. It's at level 65-ish that you'll hit the endgame. This is when you'll continue building out your character and leveling up as you complete more and more of the endgame content and work towards level 100. Another question you'll probably have talking about building out your character is how your gear works. How do you acquire gear? How do you upgrade your gear? And how do you get the most powerful gear? Again, PoE 2 isn't a traditional RPG, and unlike other games that you may compare it to that will spoon feed you throughout your whole journey, your gear isn't the be-all and end-all of your build. There are many other factors to take into account, such as your active skills, your passive skills, your skill gems, your uniques. Basically, this question doesn't have a super straightforward answer. There are many things to do to affect your character and the power of your character. However, one thing that is very pleasing to hear, especially if you're a returning player, this will make sense to you, is the fact that skill gems are no longer found on gear. Meaning that when you find a new piece of gear that's an upgrade to what you're currently using, you can immediately equip it without having to worry about the number of sockets or the colors that it has. Instead of plugging your precious gems into your new piece of gear, you will now socket your gems into a separate, dedicated interface. And I realize now, as I wrap up this question, I haven't really actually answered the question. Basically, you just acquire gear through doing various things. Killing bosses, progressing through the campaign, and I believe the crafting system is in place and will also be another great way to acquire powerful gear. Next up, as people are saying the difficulty and the gameplay of Path of Exile 2 are somewhat akin to Dark Souls, we'll talk more about this in the final point of the video because everything just gets compared to Dark Souls nowadays. But because of that, another question a lot of people are asking is, what happens when you die? The simple answer, this is a very simple one, is that dying will reset the zone you are currently in. There is no death experience penalty, you don't lose your money or your loot, anything like that, but if you die, it will reset the zone, and in the campaign you will restart from the entrance to the current zone, and the monsters along with the map will be reset. Simple as that for this question. The next question I wrote down from people's feedback, I have just now realised I mostly covered in point 1, and it's basically what will Path of Exile 2 cost to play when it leaves early access and the full game launches. The simple answer is it is completely free to play. Again, as I mentioned, there are microtransactions, but they are 99% purely cosmetic, so you can show off how cool you are, with the ability to purchase additional tabs for your stash. The only reason people are paying for early access is just to support the game. The game will be free when it officially comes out. And finally, the last thing you should know, as I alluded to in question 8, what are the difficulty settings? Why are people saying it's like Dark Souls? Path of Exile 2, just like a Souls game, has no difficulty settings, and I believe this is the sole reason that it keeps being compared. I just realized that was a pun, the sole reason. I didn't mean to do that. Oh my god, I'm so cringe. The sole reason it keeps getting compared to Dark Souls is because it has no difficulty settings, and people are saying it is quite a challenging game. So yes, the whole game can be pretty challenging, with some terrifyingly hard boss fights, especially in the late game. So basically, either you can beat it or you can't, and you've just got to keep dying and keep trying and get more powerful and become more skillful until you can overcome some of these encounters. Or, as the Souls community would put it, get good, scrub. Now that you know all of that, please let me know if you have any other questions before you jump into the game. Leave them down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them all. And hopefully I'll see you in my Discord server so we can talk about PoE some more. But for now, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.